What is going on, everybody? Happy, I don't know, Monday, Tuesday, whatever day this thing plans to come out. I'm coming to you live from Casa de las Summers, kind of special event here, right? Obviously 17 games down for Charlotte FC, still 17 to go, which puts us right at that midway point. And conveniently with the bye week, just kind of made sense to, in my opinion, kind of put together a video that highlighted the first half and really just kind of graded out what we think Charlotte FC has done so far. So that's kind of what we're doing here now. Just going to kind of grade out, obviously, Dean Smith, the gaffer himself, our defense, our midfield, and our offense. Keep it pretty simple like that. Just a little, something for you guys, and hopefully this will, kind of help you see how the season's gone so far, and hopefully it'll kind of show us what we think needs to improve for this season moving forward, so that we can ultimately get to where we want to go. I don't know if you have anything to add to that before we get started on it, but yeah, that's kind of the point of the video. So we'll jump from there.
Yeah, let's jump right into it.
Perfect. Well, I guess first and foremost, we'll start with the gaffer himself, Dean Smith. So we'll kind of grade him individual. He'll be the only individual we grade on this, but yeah, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So we haven't seen these scores, by the way, so I'm just going to write it down. She's going to write hers down, and then we're going to show it at the same time, and then just kind of go from there, explaining what we think or why we think that should be the grade. So Dean Smith, let me start with him. What am I thinking? I got a B. What did you put?
B minus.
B minus. Okay, so I was so close. You see how I put the B on the very side? Because I was going to either put a minus or a plus, and then I just was like, nope, we're going to stick with the B.
Okay,
so
tell me why you put B.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so maybe because like I said, I was very close to wanting to put either a plus or minus there, but stuck with the B. Obviously, I think he's done great. The main, in my opinion, factor that you need for a successful head coach is somebody that all the players are going to listen and respond to. And I don't think there's a doubt in my mind that all of those players respect, listen, and do what Coach Smith is asking on the pitch every single game. They work hard every single game. That's never been a question of this Charlotte team since he came into being the manager. And so for that alone, his grade's got to be pretty high. Why it's not necessarily in the A category for me, obviously, May was a very difficult month, and I wasn't a huge fan, as you may remember, when we made that switch to the back three in that one random game, just to switch it back to the back four. I just felt like maybe he started to do a little bit too much, tinker a little bit too much with what had worked in the past. And we didn't have a lot of, practice time during that time. We were playing so many games. So I just thought tactically that didn't make a lot of sense, in my opinion, why he made that decision. But really, outside of that, that's the only negative I can draw from him. So yeah, I went with a B. What about with you, with the B minus?
Okay, so the only reason it's not an A is because, or A minus or B, is simply because I think that there's a lot of things that this season on we've moved away from that structurally has worked super well from Charlotte. And again, that's not to say that Dean Smith is not a phenomenal coach, because truly he is. He's a wonderful coach. I just think that we've lost some of our identity, which is why it's a B minus. That's not to say that he isn't a great leader, and that last year he didn't really lead the team like insanely well.
Yeah.
Because he did. I mean, we had 12 clean sheets, I think, in like the regular season last year.
It's a lot. And we're nowhere close to that this year.
I think that's why, like, for me at least, it's going to be a B minus.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's a great coach. I think we're just going through some growing pains right now, which is, it's inevitable, especially with kind of bringing on all these recent new players, losing Ben Bender. Not that he was, that pivotal of a player, but still something that we lost. So I think that, again, it's not necessarily a loss, but just like things are changing, and change is not a bad thing for the team at all. And then kind of to your point of the moving to that back three, where traditionally we are running a back four, I think that I didn't think I questioned Dean's decision on that.
Right.
Because I understand like why we're trying to figure things out.
Trying to figure something out.
To your point of we're on the road, we're already losing, like, why change something up when we know like what has worked in the past, but at the same time, if we were on the road and continuously losing, like, we had to like figure out something, even if it's just to
Yeah.
throw our hat in there. So I don't know. It's going to be B- for me on Dean Smith.
Fair. No, that's good. And yeah, if you're going to change it, at least change it and keep it, right? Not change it and then go back. But yeah, no, very fair grade, I think, on both. We were obviously pretty close. So yeah, B or B-. That's what we get for Dean Smith so far this season. Love what you do. Keep doing it. And hopefully we'll get that grade up to an A by the end of the season. So,
oh, yeah.
Yep, kind of moving on. So I'm going to go ahead and erase my board here. See, I got the fancy board. You just got like that cheap paper, you're peasant over here. Unprepared.
Nah, yo, hold my poodle. Hold my poodle.
Just kidding.
You're at our house.
That's true. I did have to come over here, but hey, that's different story, different day. Casa de la Summer. So into the defense. I guess that's where we'll go next. Yeah. So go ahead and moving on. We'll do the defense of score next. This one, I feel like this one could have a lot of variance, but we'll see. So let me go ahead and write it down.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. And reveal 3, 2, 1. What did you?
Okay, C+.
So you went C+. I went C- on that. Okay, so again, we're in the same, at least, category in terms of where we have them graded. So I guess that's good. I was on the minus side. You were on the plus side. I'll let you go first this time. Why did you decide to go with the C+?
Okay, so I went C+ because I think this year we started out so strong.
Yeah.
And I think our defense was really locked in, and they also really understood how they were playing with one another.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Kalina was, phenomenal in the beginning of the season. And last year, he was coming off of the goalkeeper of the year. So I think that really helped him kind of push into, the 2025 season.
Sure.
So I think that's why I'm kind of giving them that C+. However, a reason why it's a C is because, you've seen how they played recently.
May was bad. Yeah.
Getting scored on in 1 month, what was it,
22, 23 goals. Yeah, it was a lot.
That's ridiculous.
Lost count. It was that many. I know that.
No, seriously, that's just absolutely ridiculous. And so I would say that I don't think that they're not bad. I think we're just lost. And kind of going back to the Dean Smith thing, I think that it hasn't been a focus for Dean Smith as much as it has, and we'll get into the offense later. But I think that we went into the season knowing that, we have one of the best defensive group of players in the league.
Yep.
What was our ranking at the end of 20?
We were first in the conference, second in overall, obviously, last year. And
exactly.
so
it was like, I think we went into it with a mindset of like, we're so good.
Got it in a bag.
Yeah, this is a layup. But I think that as we moved away from really focusing on, training that defense, and obviously, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I think that because there was such a focus in the beginning on our offense, because it's never been great, I think we started to shy away from, really focusing on our defense. Not to say that they're not all talented players. I think we're just going through.
Yeah, we'll transition. Yeah, So all good points. Kind of, same long thinking that I had. Right, I did the C-. Obviously, if this was just the month of May, it would have been an F, right? But you have to account those first couple of months as well, where in the first 2 months, again, we did only give up 8 goals through the first 2 months of the season, which was right on track with what we were really doing last season. And you hate to blame injury, but this did come at the same time that Nathan Byrne got injured, that Suleiman Doumbia got injured, right? So we did lose a couple of key contributors to that defense as May came around, and then we had just game after game after game where they didn't necessarily have a chance to practice a lot together with some of the newer guys like the Scardinias of the world that had to come in and fill in. And so it's fair to expect somewhat of a slide, but it was just of historical proportions how bad it was in the month of May and how many goals they were giving up. And so I think you're right. Obviously, the focus this season, when Dean got here last year, he established a defensive identity immediately, and that's what we led on and really, fed on last season. And through the beginning of this season, our thought was, well, we're just going to continue that defensive dominance, and let's progress on the offensive side. And so I think, like you said, that progression kind of made us forget about the defense a little bit too much and maybe got them a little bit complacent. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously this is the area of biggest improvement for the second half of the season. You know, I had mentioned it, I think, a couple of videos ago. If we get back to that defense where we're giving up 1 goal or 0 goals in every game, we're going to be winning the vast majority of these games. So it's really about getting that defensive identity back. But yeah, like I said, C- for me, C+ for you. I think those are pretty fair, scores at the end of the day. I think it's, yeah, like I said, somewhere in that range for the first half of the season. And I think, obviously, haven't given the other scores yet, but I think that'll probably be the one with the most room to grow moving into the second half of the season. So, yeah, I guess we'll just keep rolling into the midfield next. So, fun area for Charlotte FC, the midfield. So let me go ahead and get that. Kind of an interesting one to grade. You know, we always have a pretty consistent midfield of Westwood, Bronico, and of course Pep Biel. But you know, still got Eric Williamson in there sometimes, and got Jabril Gianni coming in. My favorite name on the team, Jabril Gianni. So let's see what everybody thinks on that. 3, 2, 1. B+. Oh, you went A minus. Okay, we're pretty close then. Yeah. I was right there. I thought about it, so I kept it in the B+. You were at the A minus. I guess we'll just keep the alternate form going. I'll go ahead and jump in on mine and pass it to you after. So, yeah, I didn't quite give it an A minus. I was right there on the end. If this was just 3 Pep Biels, it would have been an A+. To be fair, right? I mean, I think Pep Biel does deserve an A, and so I feel a little bit bad about his side of things. Not to say that obviously Ashley Westwood, our captain, and Brent Bronico, we know what we're going to get out of those players as well as far as consistency. But one thing that I've just kind of noticed this season is our midfield outside of Pep Biel isn't going to be, or at least it hasn't really been, the game changers that we have come to see out of like an Ashley Westwood in the past, right? They are there. They're in the quote-unquote engine room. They're making the plays. They're playing good defensive sound football, I'd say, overall. But they haven't been very dynamic, in my opinion, right? They have been steady, but not quite dynamic. And so that's kind of the difference between the A grade for the entire midfield versus, say, that B+ that I gave them. Again, we haven't seen Eric Williamson come in and be like great. Again, has he been bad? No, but same with Jabril Gianni. When he's in, he does what he's asked to do, but there's not much dynamicism. I don't know if that's a word. I'm making it up now if it isn't. But yeah, like I said, they are very just consistent players, very good. Obviously, we have Pep Biel, who is one of the best players in the league right now, and so maybe I should have given him an A just for that. But I think just as a collective group, they are all B players, solid. You're going to know what you're going to get out of these players, but not a lot of, again, dynamicism. I'm making that word up, but that's the word of the day for the midfield. So that's why I gave them a B+. What about your A- over here?
I'm going A-. I mean, I think when I think of like who we have playing consistently every game in the midfield, I'm going A- simply because, like you said, they're not as dynamic or whatever the word that you made.
Dynamic's probably the actual word, and we'll just use that one. But yeah.
But maybe they are not the most dynamic group of people, but I would say that I feel are the most consistent group of people. And when it comes to Charlotte FC, I feel like there's so much inconsistency. I think that's why I have to give them that A-, because like you said, you do know what they're going to do on the field. Like, they are going to be not making the craziest plays, but when it comes down to it, you know that they're going to be there when they need to be there, and then they're going to be at the ball. Like, when it is pushing or falling back, like, they're going to do it every time. Is it the most amazing midfield? No, but it's consistent. And with a team like Charlotte FC, who is so full of inconsistencies, I mean, hell, like we were saying with the defense, like, we were first in goals
against last year, yeah.
And then last month we got scored on 23 times. But So I would say there's so much inconsistency with every part of Charlotte FC except for our midfield, and maybe that's a hot take, but
And a little Pep BL.
Yeah, no, of course, and I think that Pep BL, for example, when Ashley Westwood isn't playing, as amazing as he could. Same thing with Brett Veronica. Like, I would say that Pep really does fill in the gaps where his team, or his midfield team lacks. And I would say his team as a whole lacks. He really does try to be like a very supportive player throughout the entire game, even if it's moving around on the field, like pushing up into kind of that more forward striker position. I would say that I just have to give them the A-. I really do. I would say I'd bet on the consistency more than I would the inconsistency, and that's where the A- comes in.
Fair. I can't disagree. I think, and while you were kind of talking there, I thought about it in my head, what would get them up to that A grade, at least for me. And again, they do everything right, so it does make it difficult. But I think what I want to see, again,
it's just not wow.
Right, we see too many, we'll say 10-yard and 5-yard passes for them, right? They're just keeping the ball connected. I want to see more 30, 40-yard, I know that Ashley Westwood's capable of putting the ball 30, 40 yards down the field and letting Najimon chase it down, right? I want to see a little bit more of that. I think in the coming games, that's what will kind of elevate them, in my opinion, is just a little bit more risky passes, I guess I would say. Not risky in the terms of, hey, this could get turned over and score a goal on the other side. Just get the ball down the field a little bit more from that defensive midfield role. Everything Pep BL's doing, don't change a thing, right, on that side. But those two, again, continue to play the defense, put out the fires if you've done, but then progress the ball down the field a little bit further. We saw the very last goal we scored against Toronto, obviously, that came from Zaha making the pass down the field. But those are the kind of passes that I think Ashley Westwood and Brent Bonico are more than capable of making, where they can just feed the ball up the field to a one-on-one Ajimon, who is going to beat his defender more times than not if it's a one-on-one battle, as we saw against Toronto in that last game. So that's it. But yeah, obviously I think overall we have a good midfield. We like our midfield. Maybe a little bit more dynamicism. We'll just call it a little bit more dynamic moving forward. Okay. I'm going to try that word every time it doesn't work. So yeah. And then kind of last on the board here, our offense. So this will be the last thing we score. I know everybody's like, oh, thank God. No, just kidding. But yeah, here we go. So offense so far this season, again, a kind of tricky one to grade because of how they started and then maybe how they've been playing recently. So let's see. I'm going to have to think about this one for a second too. So that's what I'm sitting here doing. Here we go, 3, 2, 1. Where were you at? C+. I'm at B+. Okay, so yeah, this one's our biggest. I figured it may be because there are a lot of different things going on with the offense. So again, I guess I'll turn it over to you first on this one. Why the C+ for the boys in the front?
I mean, okay, I would just say this much. I think recently they have played really, really well as a collective. And I think that I don't want to stray away from that. And I think that they have really grown in the past month and a half per se. Because when I think about where we started this season, I mean, I remember my biggest thing was hiding on our offense and how we just lacked so much inability to play well up top. We really did.
Yeah, it was very inconsistent.
Getting to the ball, from those long passes from the midfield, where that's where it was in the beginning, and now we're doing great, and then also lack of control up top as well. I think there were some inconsistencies there. And I just think, and again, I know it's going to sound like I'm hating, but I think when Zaha first started, I think he lacked so much discipline and drive and charisma.
Sure. Not
towards Charlotte, but towards the game as a whole. And I think now he's really got a fire in him, which I love to see, which is I think why I'm at this C+.
You just think there's untapped potential there.
It's not even that they're not, again, they're not talented, right? They are individually insanely talented players.
Yep.
I mean, look at how much, Pat has like performed within the last 2 months. Look at how much, Vargas has like assisted.
Yeah.
And then I would go to Abada. Like, he's had some really great plays throughout the season, but I think what gives me my C for him is his inability to like
finish the goals.
Exactly. And then also his inability to, play defensively even when he's up top.
Yeah.
So I think that is why it's at the C plus, is because they're all such really, really great players. But I think that they're not playing to their fullest potential, whereas, why I gave the midfield what I gave the midfield was because they don't have that wow factor, but they do play consistently every week, whereas up top they are such talented individuals, and a lot of them have a really, really great experience.
Sure.
Too. Like, they're very mature players, and not old, but very mature, have a lot under their belt, have a lot of play time under their belt. So I think that's where the C plus.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, all, like I said, good points on that. Yeah, I mean, and there is a little untapped potential, because I think really when you look at the front 3 or 4, whatever you want to call it for Charlotte, I mean, and you place that against the rest of the league, right? You take our Wilfred Zaha, Patrick Agyemang, Liel Abada / Karen Vargas, foursome, threesome, whatever you want to call it on that, forward. I think that plays against anybody in the league in terms of talent, right? And so from a talent standpoint, it's an A. But the consistency is what brings it down for you to that C plus, and for me at least to the B plus. I did give him a pretty good grade here, a B plus.
That's actually higher than what I thought it was.
Yeah, and the reason why, maybe this is too much recency bias for me, but yeah, I just feel like over especially the last month, even though collectively as a team we have struggled, that's been, as we know, more on the defensive side than the offensive side. I feel like the offense has really been a lot more consistent. We're seeing, I'm one of those, weird stat people that love like the expected goals as much as I love the goals, right? And so if you go look at the expected goals over the last month for Charlotte, it's consistently in the 2s to 3s, which again doesn't sound like a lot, but that is, right? That means we're consistently, creating opportunities to get 2-3 goals on the board, which again, we pair that with our defense, that should be enough to win the majority of your games. And so I look at the people like the Wilfred Zahas, that you are correct. When he, got here initially, it didn't look great. It was kind of hit or miss with him. Some plays would look great, but then for the collective 90 minutes, it, a little bit too much complaining maybe to the refs. Patrick Agyemang, yeah, he looks good when he gets on the ball, but then when he gets in front of the net, it's, he's hitting it too high, too wide, whatever the case. Liel Abada will make a finish that will make your jaw drop, but then he'll make another finish that make you put your hands out like this, right? So there's just a little bit of greatness, but then what the F, right? And so, but I just think that what Dean Smith and that offense has done and progressed to over the last, say, 3 to 4 weeks, I have been very encouraged with. I think that Wilfred Zaha has really, incorporated himself very nicely over the last month, learning kind of, okay, I can stay out wide and be effective, but then when do I come centrally to make those plays? And I think that he is really starting to learn his teammates, and his teammates in turn have learned him a lot more. And I think that what has happened with that has been very good to watch. And so this is a grade, maybe I didn't quite grade it fairly, but this is kind of a grade, I think, for kind of also moving forward and progressing into the next part of the season, is I think just a little bit more consistency out of those top 3, but that's, I think always the case for forwards, right? But a little bit more consistency will get them into that A range, because again, they do have the talent that can compete with anybody in the league. But just, yeah, like I said, being able to find that on a more consistent basis, I think will bring it up today for me. But overall, like I said, B plus for them on that. Can't complain too much. So I think that's really it, unless you have anything else to add. I don't know. I, like I said, kind of a...
I mean, I don't think I have anything else to add. I'm very surprised our grades were as close as they were.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Like I said, we were pretty close on most of them. We think a lot alike, though, so I'm not super surprised that was the case. But yeah, like I said, it's been a good season. I think we can all agree just based on these. We love our coach, we love our midfield, we love our offense, and I think we will love our defense once we get that part figured out again, but that's certainly been the thing that has kept us from that top 4 level that we feel like we know we're at, and keeping us in 8th place right now. So thank you guys for watching this. Like I said, if you haven't already, like and subscribe.
Comment down below your grades.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, even better. Yeah, comment down. Yeah, if you disagree, put your grades in, and of course, we can have that debate as well. So appreciate you guys watching. As always, for the crown.